So, there's a new pope. Big deal, right? They announced it with all the bells and smoke and Latin they could find. Habemus papam, it's Latin for we have a pope. But was this a moment of genuine faith or some kind of spiritual cosplay? Because in much of Europe, churches are emptying. The youth in particular are vanishing. But is this the end of traditional religion in Europe?
Minute-by-minute coverage of the conclave, a list of probably that means papal candidates, an aerial drone camera staring down at a centuries-old Sistine Chapel chimney, streaming suspense to millions. White smoke means a new pope, black smoke means keep waiting. In recent weeks, it's been all eyes on the Vatican, as if the whole world had become Catholic. But religion isn't faith, and that's why this week we're asking, what do young Europeans actually believe in? From monotheistic religions to tarot cards and alternative spirituality, we're going in. Across Europe, fewer than half say religion still matters. Among the under 25s, it's just 35%. The church is still standing, but have new generations moved on?
In France, 43% of 18 to 30-year-olds believe in God. That figure was 52% as recently as 2018, and the numbers are much lower for regular worshippers. Just 8% of young French people say they attend a religious service at least once a week. In Germany, religion is playing an increasingly diminished role among Christians aged 12 to 25, with just 38% now saying faith in God is important to them, down from 51% in 2002. Among young Muslims, however, that figure rises to 79%. Further south, notably in Spain, in 2023, some 60% of 18 to 24-year-olds said they had no religion, down from 49% in 2018. The non-religious include atheists, agnostics, and those who are indifferent. That said, 83% of young people take an interest in religious matters and the history of religions. In the East, and in Poland specifically, 71% of 18 to 24-year-olds described themselves as believers in 2021, compared with 93% 30 years earlier. Only 23% are now believed to attend Mass regularly. In conclusion, while religion is losing ground among young Europeans, some intriguing trends are emerging. For instance, in the United Kingdom, Catholicism is now more popular than Anglicanism among 18 to 24-year-olds.
Another exception, France. This Easter, 10,000 people chose to be baptized. That's a 45% spike from last year, the highest in 20 years, according to the Bishops' Conference. And leading the way, young people from 18 to 25. But step outside traditional religions, something else is happening. New rituals, different gods. That's where we met Shania. Irish roots, living in the Netherlands, she's into Reiki. Energy healing, hands-on, no altars or priests necessary.
I was raised Catholic, and I also grew up, I think, quite religious. So we would go to mass every Sunday. When my mother died, she was the one who was more in touch with, I guess, the religious. So when she died, like 10 years ago, I was kind of young, and that like disillusioned me, I think, with mainstream religion.
The rest a little later. Beyond the testimonies and the glimpses we catch on Instagram and TikTok or in our IRL circles, there's not much in the way of real stats on these new spiritual practices in Europe. That's why we reached out to Marion Maudet. She's a sociologist focused on religion and gender. Recently, she organised a symposium called Young People, Religions and Spiritualities. Basically, she's the one you call when you want to make sense of everything spiritual. And she gave us the first outlines of what these so-called alternative spiritualities actually are. Pay close attention.
Il y a plusieurs manières d'essayer de donner des liens ou des points communs pour pouvoir décrire cet ensemble de pratiques. Ce qui parfois est donné, c'est cette idée donc, de pratiques centrées sur des discours de type la réalisation de soi, par exemple, mais qui peuvent être croisés avec des croyances qui sortent de la rationalité scientifique habituelle, sachant qu'on peut avoir les deux mêlés et puis parfois on a plutôt un aspect ou l'autre. Donc dans ce cadre-là, on peut tout à fait considérer que la pratique du yoga, ça peut être considéré, en tout cas pour certains types de pratiques et pour certaines personnes, comme de la nouvelle spiritualité contemporaine. Alors que d'autres vont faire leur yoga dans une salle de sport une fois par semaine et là ce sera en fait pas vraiment du même acabit.
Right, okay, so it all depends on what you consider a practice. Say you drop into a downward dog, maybe it's just a stretch, or maybe it's something profound, like hitting a factory reset on a chaotic everything. That search for meaning, it shows up in all kinds of ways. we went digging through the social feeds to see how.
Esotericism is trending on TikTok and Instagram. Since the coronavirus pandemic, millions have become fascinated with astrology, tarot cards, crystals, and similar practices on social media. Surveys suggest that almost 2 in 3 young Germans under the age of 24 believe that there's a link between their star sign and their personality. And in France, it's 1 in 2.
We're water signs. Of course we still stalk our ex 10 years later.
More than a third of young people in France also believe in clairvoyance and in magic. Many esoteric elements are embraced by the large community of modern witches on TikTok. Under the hashtag WitchTok, you'll find more than 8 million videos. It's mainly young women showing us how to cast spells on ex-boyfriends or conjure up success. Read between the lines, and it's full of feminism and empowerment.
2 Tipps für Baby-Witches, die gerade erst damit anfangen, sich für Magie zu öffnen.
The so-called Wicca movement describes itself as a religion of witches and is among the world's fastest-growing new religious movements. A desire for personal development is also driving many young people to explore new spiritual practices. Courses on mindfulness, meditation, yoga, forest bathing, and similar things are offered not only by travel agencies, but also by gurus, and they can take on a religious character. There's also a boom in alternative healing methods. Neo-shamanism combines these with ecological ideals. Its followers seek to heal both the natural world and their own souls.
En tapant sur le tambour, on modifie la fréquence cérébrale et ce qui permet à l'inconscient de communiquer avec l'invisible.
C'est vraiment un outil d'introspection par rapport à se reconnecter à qui l'on est dans notre être multidimensionnel, mais aussi à nos ancêtres, à nos animaux totems.
Here in Great Britain, pagan traditions have been making a comeback in recent years. At the end of winter, hundreds gathered to drive out evil spirits from orchards and ensure a good harvest.
Yeah, I think there's a big movement at the minute for, particularly within the UK, to reclaim some of the lost pagan histories that are around and to be able to let people to engage with in a community spirit.
For some, it's about seeking a deeper connection to nature. In the face of the climate crisis, spiritual practices that question humanity's place on Earth are flourishing.
Ce qui caractérise aussi plutôt ces nouvelles spiritualités, c'est que les gens font une sorte de bricolage entre différentes pratiques. Et donc, par exemple, on peut retrouver des gens qui vont s'intéresser à un moment, je sais pas, à la cartomancie, puis ils vont aller vers des pratiques de Reiki, puis ils vont s'intéresser au magnétisme. Est-ce que c'est quelque chose de nouveau? Ce qui est sûr, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, il y a des formes un peu renouvelées avec le féminisme ou avec les mouvements éco-spirituels. Et en même temps, on voit bien que c'est des choses qui existaient déjà dans les années 80-90. Et le discours de réalisation de soi, d'individualisation, de choix des pratiques de bricolage, ça pareil, c'est des choses qu'on observe depuis plusieurs décennies.
Turns out nothing's really new under the sun, but let's dig into what's driving young folks towards new age spiritualities. We got a chance to hear from Shania. Here's what she had to say.
Why I wanted to explore some of these I suppose alternative spirituality practices was because I had some health issues last year that I was dealing with, and I was going down other alternative medicine routes, which somehow interacts or overlaps with alternative spirituality. What surprised me was with this Reiki experience. It was funny. I was like feeling certain things in my body, and then the woman who was, I guess, practicing it on me was able to afterwards feel the energy that I had and tell me things that I was feeling and about myself that really resonated with me that I hadn't actually told anyone. So it was this kind of wow, how did she gather that from just, they're placing hands over your body. Maybe there's no scientific or medical, proof for that, but it's interesting that you can feel the effects. And I really did feel lighter after the sessions I had.
Our expert sociologist Marian Mode breaks down why a chunk of today's youth are flocking to alternative spiritualities, and it's not just what you think. There's another factor at play.
Il y a aussi potentiellement un rapport à la hiérarchie catholique qui est très particulière par rapport à d'autres religions, avec un système hiérarchique qui peut être mis en cause, notamment parce qu'il répond peut-être moins à cette envie de bricolage, de réappropriation des parcours. C'est plus compliqué en fait dans la version la plus classique du catholicisme. Ce qui caractérise aussi plutôt ces nouvelles spiritualités, c'est qu'on n'a pas d'autorité centrale qui définirait ce que c'est en fait que la bonne manière de pratiquer et l'ensemble des pratiques à avoir ou des croyances à avoir. En fait, l'autorité est beaucoup plus diffuse. Il y a une impression d'horizontalité beaucoup plus forte, avec en plus des accès aux ressources de ce point de vue-là qui sont nombreuses, avec par exemple tout ce qu'on va pouvoir trouver en ligne.
Of course, with this rise in diffuse authority comes a darker side, the very real risk of cult-like practices, particularly prevalent in spaces where people turn when they're feeling vulnerable. In France, there's the Miviludes, a government body set up to monitor such risks. Between 2022 and 2024, 35% of reports they received were about cults and alternative spiritualities. So, it's clear we need to stay vigilant. On that note, take care of yourselves. We're back next week. Until soon.